welcome back to the Stop the Madness podcast. I, myself, Ben, by the way, my name's Alex Bolin. Thanks for joining us. And who are you again? I forget.
I'm Ben. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, Ben.
Man, you should meet the guy that cuts my paychecks. He reminds me of you.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like a real asshole.
He is. I never heard anything good about that guy.
Yeah, no comment. No comment.
Man, well, I, for one, like I just mentioned a minute ago, I've been looking forward to this day since ever we scheduled it, which I don't even know how long ago that was at this point. It's probably 3 weeks ago. It feels like a year. But it wasn't that long ago. So today with us on the Stop the Madness podcast, we got good old Matthew Knuth. Can I say where you're from?
Or yes, do you want to absolutely. No, go ahead.
He's from Wisconsin, unfortunately. I was going to joke with you about Wisconsin. But Matt is with Uptime Solutions. You've been reliability condition monitoring guy for a hot minute, right?
A couple hundred years.
Couple hundred years. Okay. Well, you look pretty good for a couple hundred years.
I appreciate that.
That's good. That's good.
That.
And, you know, Matt, we're not quite like Greg, grip it and rip it style with this podcast. We'll have a little bit of an overarching theme, but I have no idea where this is going to take us today. And my goal out of this is to get you fired up about something.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be that hard because we already got you fired up before we started recording. So.
I know. I'm like my children. I'm hangry. It was a long walk from central Wisconsin in the ice and snow uphill.
Oh, both
and
ways.
And then downhill
yeah.
from whatever that mountain range is you got down here. But, yeah, I'm glad to be sitting down.
Well, cool, man. Well, I guess if you could kick this off, 30,000-foot view, what do you do?
30,000-foot view. Well, again, thanks for inviting me down. It's good to be here with you and Ben. We have been looking forward to this. It'll be a lot of fun. What do I do? I don't know. That's a good question. Depends who you ask. My wife asks me that question every day too. Like, what do you do? As you said in the intro, I've been doing this for 25 years now. So I started off back in industrial equipment repair, so electric motors, AC, DC motors, gearboxes, pumps, stuff like that. That's where I cut my teeth. I was in the early to mid 90s or late 90s. I started off in the automotive industry and then quickly transitioned over to heavy industrial. So it was a really easy switch for me. It gave me that, having that mechanical background. Sure. So I did that and then got into the field services, man. Just started doing alignment work, balancing work, vibration analysis work. And that's the space I've been living in for, these 25 years I talked about. So my current role is VP of Reliability Solutions for Uptime. Oh, look out.
Here we go. Hoity-toity over here. It's a good title.
Sport coat today, too, which I'm shocked.
It's only because it's cold. I knew I was heading to the south, and I should have had my cut-off jeans, but I didn't.
You should have.
But I wanted to. I didn't want to be overdressed. No, sorry, you got off track. I told you this was going to happen.
This is what I wanted.
All right, man. Yeah. So I don't know. Does that?
That's good enough.
Like
right?
what do I do? Like what do I do for Uptime?
And no, not what do you do for Uptime. I guess.
I got the best job in the world, man. Like I said,
like walk us through. Like if you go on site, where do you shine? Where do you do best?
Customer sites?
Yeah, like when you're out there in the trenches with the boys, so to speak.
You know, when I'm out in the trenches, I just let them control the conversation. I see where I can bring in my experience and just come up alongside them and help them out. I mean, when they're condition monitoring, right now it's a very exciting time to be in this space, whether it's condition monitoring or in your world in the EAM. There's so much great technology out there.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But it is really an exciting time to be in this space.
So we've talked about this quite a bit. And, one of your points is like why it's exciting is, yes, we got a lot of cool technology, a lot of cool things that can be done. I can't remember the exact figure, but there's a large amount of money being poured into the condition monitoring space, right? Like because it's becoming cheaper to make devices. So it feels like, almost down here in the South, Matt, you'll learn as you drive. You'll see a church at like every corner, right? Like there's just churches everywhere. I feel like that's kind of what's happening both in the EAM world and the condition monitoring space. It's like everywhere you turn your head, there's like a new company popped up with a device. And I don't want to say the market's getting oversaturated. Maybe it is, but there's a lot of surgeons coming in because obviously there is some money to be made. But part in theme with Stop the Madness podcast, like from your angle, having been in this world for, I say a long time, like where do you see a little bit of craziness happening, right? Like what is quickly becoming, I say the new norm of bullshit that's probably the way to describe it. But like, we see a lot of smoke and mirrors. So what's happening in the industry currently, and where can we try to get beyond the smoke and mirrors and the snake oil and what's going on out there?
Well, the funny thing is, it's kind of what I call the second coming of the smoke and mirrors. When I got into this as a young 20-year-old, getting out in industry as a young guy who was looked upon by the old heads at that time, like, you're young, what the hell do you know, type of thing. They would look at what I was doing with vibration analysis, and I think, oh, that's all a bunch of crap. That's all smoke and mirrors. When back in that time, it really wasn't smoke and mirrors. It was just something they weren't familiar with, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I think the real smoke and mirrors is happening now. And it's like anything else, right? You said this is a growing industry. I think the numbers are, maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to look. I don't have my cheat sheets in front of me here this morning, but I think it's like a $300 billion industry or something like that. So whenever you put a price tag on something like that, then everybody wants a piece of that action, right? It's like anything else. So over the last 20 years, the space has got real crowded. Back in the day, I'm starting to sound like an old man now, but honestly, when I got started, there was only a handful of condition monitoring companies. Yeah. The legacy companies, the SKFs, the Emersons, which used to be CSI, the Intech IRDs, the SPMs and of the world. And that's what you did. You jumped in bed with one of them and you rode that out for the whole career. I mean, that was embedded in there.
Yeah.
Fast forward 20 years to the early 2000s, and now you got IoT devices everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of the Wild West, no doubt. No doubt. And I think the biggest, to answer your question, is I think the marketing and the hype. That's where it's really getting muddy, because nothing's really changed. Yeah. Like I said, I've been doing this 25 years. Condition monitoring, I always tell people, has been around 80 plus years, since we started doing oil analysis, right? Yeah. It's nothing new, but you see me running my mouth on the LinkedIn and other things from time to time, because everybody's that's jumped into this space is, just throwing around a lot of buzzwords and acting like prescriptive maintenance is a maintenance strategy, or like it's something new in there. It's not. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. The only thing that's changed is how we get our data. We get our data much quicker. Yeah. But how it should be analyzed and how it should be put into action, that hasn't changed in 100 years.
That's so true. I mean, we talked about it a lot, right? The birth of this podcast is around the lunacy that we've all seen on LinkedIn, right? Well, it's why we started the workshop and what we're doing tomorrow, right? You're going to be a part of that. And it's, man, I don't know how to describe it other than like, there were a handful of posts that I saw that I just couldn't sit anymore and say that I'm going to let this one slide. I was like, this is crazy. And I don't get on there. I maybe called one person an asshole one time, but I try to keep it.
Wasn't me, was it?
No, it wasn't you.
Before we became friends?
It wasn't you. But like when I see something crazy, I'll just drop a little like, this is wild, or this doesn't seem right. I'll call it out, but not be too much of a butthead about it. But there is a lot of that going on. And I think I saw a post yesterday on LinkedIn that it was a company that has a digital application for lubrication. And they were talking about how CMMSs cannot facilitate a good lubrication program. And it like stopped me for a minute and I was like, huh? Really? So like we have a cool digital tool to help with our lubrication program, whatever the case may be. But I was just like, why are we spinning the message to sell the product to say that a traditional CMMS can't facilitate a good lubrication program? And I wanted to call and say like, it's not true. Like this isn't rocket science here that we're doing. And if you have a modern or sophisticated system, it should be able to handle any function that you need to do. So like, why are we doing it? I understand it's a product. They need to sell it. But it goes back to that, just like it's a marketing spin that we're throwing on this. We're trying to change the narrative, or they're trying to change the mindset of like, ooh, I got to have that because I'm now being told that like my CMMS can't handle it. And I think that's dumb because now like we're encouraging people to spend money on stuff maybe they don't need. But they're being told, well, my application can't do this, right? And I'm sure that's very similar in your world as well. But anyway, I'm getting off that high horse for a second. I could spend a lot of time there. Yesterday, let's talk about yesterday. We've talked enough about today. Yesterday was kind of a big day, right? Especially for you Wisconsinites.
Well, I think if you're talking about like the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the Fitzgerald,
Fitz,
you know, not just Wisconsinites, but you know,
Michigan, the whole Great Lakes,
Michigan,
community,
Ohio.
right?
From you know, most of the folks on that vessel, working that vessel, were from Toledo area, and stuff like that.
So I was thinking, and you know, Matt, you and I have talked a little bit about this, and Ben, I guess I haven't told you about this, but well, actually, I have told you about this. You know, we see an opportunity in the maritime industry just because, again, an element of the madness is like, how do we get out of reactive to proactive, or, you know, just be better, continuous improvement. And, you know, with yesterday being the anniversary of the Fitz, I think it's a good opportunity to let's do a mini deep dive in like what's happening in the maritime industry a little bit. Let some of your experience that goes with it. I mean, we don't have much, I'll be brutally honest there, but, you know, we're smart enough, we can draw conclusions, and I'm sure a lot of these things aren't too dissimilar to what are happening in everyday plants, right? So anyway, the story of the Fitz is interesting. I keep hearing a lot of conflicting things on what truly happened. I think what I learned yesterday was, what was the other vessel that it was going with? Was it the Anderson?
Yeah, the Arthur M. Anderson.
Yeah, the Arthur M. Anderson. I did not know this piece where I guess the Fitz had started taking on water. And the Anderson was trailing it, trying to provide support or what have you, and then they just lost radar contact, and I guess that's when it sunk. In my mind, and the story, especially, you know, from the song, is that the boat just sank and it was gone. I didn't realize there was more to the story of that. You know, they had been kind of followed along, pumps were failing, you know, they couldn't get the bilge pumps working, let's say, and obviously the storm and the waves, and just the perfect scenario of just catastrophe occurred. So I don't know. I guess I want your hot take on what you've learned about.
You know, that story. You know, that's one vessel. I think that was the last. And I'm no expert on this, right? I just developed a love for some maritime history because in Wisconsin I grew up on the Bay of Green Bay, and I spent some time living up in Upper Michigan. So I'm very familiar with. You know, I just fell in love with Lake Michigan. Sure. Lake Superior. And when you live and play in those areas, there's a lot of different maritime museums and stuff. So you're kind of always fascinated by shipwrecks as a kid. You know, you're fascinated by shipwrecks or aviation. You know, when a plane flies over as a kid, you look up at the clouds. Trains, all that kind of stuff, right. Yeah, I think the Fitz was the last major marine accident out on the Great Lakes is my understanding. Okay. But, you know, it's one of, they say, anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 wrecks are out in the Great Lakes. They don't know for sure because many of them were just unaccounted for. You know, that's crazy. But the Fitz, I just watched last night. I'm kind of tired today because I stayed up later and I should have for having to jump on an airplane at 4 a.m. There was a great documentary called The Gales of November, and they were talking about how, like you said, the Arthur Anderson and the Fitz went out together, I think from Superior, with iron ore, taconite, heading to, I forget their final destination, if it was somewhere in Canada or what. But,
it was Ohio, I think.
Was it Ohio to Toledo?
Yeah.
And they were following each other. Now, if you look at the history of these two captains, I mean, the story of the Fitz and all the speculation on, you know, there's like 3 different stories on how that thing went down, right? But the fascinating backstories on those two captains, like those guys were absolute stone cold badasses. Like they were heavy weather captains and that shit didn't scare them, right? Yeah. So they went out together and they were tracking, like you said. I think the Fitz had a couple hatch covers that failed, and they had I think a crane or something had knocked out their primary radar, and then the secondary radar got knocked out that night, I think, in the storm. So then the Anderson was helped navigate them through that, right? But they hit a shoal. I forget the name of the shoal is what they're expecting. I couldn't
remember if it was the shoal
or
not.
They ran into ground, so they think they ripped it open.
Yeah.
Because he said he was listing.
Yeah.
Sinking, taking on water. Yeah. And then the thing that was wild to me is I'm no meteorologist or no water expert. I mean, I'm just a guy who looks at vibration signatures. But the captain, you know, if you read even that thing I posted, that little history of it yesterday, I had said, like, my research said 25 plus feet waves. Yeah. But the captain had recorded that the waves were over 50 feet high because, you know, where he sits up in the nest there is over 50 feet. Wow! And he said he got hit by 3 waves. Jeez! They called them the 3 sisters. So
I remember hearing that.
The Great Lakes another thing they touch on that, and I know I'm ranting here, but it's fascinating, is how the waves develop and how they're very random versus like a sine wave of the ocean, something with the freshwater versus saltwater.
Yeah.
And that captain had said that he got hit by 3 waves, and after that, because he was about a few miles back behind and off, and them same waves probably are what busted that ship in half. And when you look at that, that ship was it's laying in like 500 and something feet of water, I think.
Yeah.
That ship is 729 feet long.
That's huge.
So they figured because it was listing and all that, and because the load, the cargo had shifted, that it speared what they call green water.
Yeah.
And snapped it in half, or it snapped over the waves.
Wow.
So it's pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. I mean, I do a lot of sailboat racing. And so I've never I was on a cruise ship once. I don't know if that was 700 feet, but the boats I get on are like 24 feet. Or the event I did a couple weeks ago or a month ago, it was a little 13-foot boat. But I've ran aground plenty due to stupidity most of the time, right? And sailboats have a keel under the water, right? It's usually 4 to 6 feet, depending on the size of the boat. But I was in Charleston Harbor in Charleston, South Carolina, sailing one year, and actually I was meeting my buddy Mikey P. Love that guy. The name of it, you're going to love this. The name of his boat was called Joe Mama. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we were out sailing one night in the harbor, and Charleston Harbor's got a really strong current, real strong tide. I think at max flow, it's around 3.5, 4 knots. So it rips, and it's a lot of water moving. And we were sailing close to the Fort Sumter Island. And I don't think we realized how low the tide actually was. And I mean, luckily it was just a little sandbar. It wasn't much, but like we ran aground and I was like, damn, we hit hard. And I was like, Mike, I don't think we're going to be able to get off the sandbar, man. And he's like, dude, why don't you just jump in the water and see how deep it is? I was like, I'm not jumping in this damn water. This is Charleston Harbor, like there are sharks. And, I don't want to step in. Their oyster beds are everywhere in there. Right? I was like, I don't want to step in an oyster bed. So he convinced me to do it. We were also probably like a little intoxicated at the time. And so I did it, and I jumped into like ankle deep sand water. And I was like, this is a problem. And the tide's going out. The water's only going to get more shallow. And sure. I was like, we're either going to be here all night, and we definitely don't have enough booze to be here all night. So we need to get out of here. So we just pushed the boat off, and we went sailing, and we had a good time. But I can attest, right? Like I've been offshore sailing too. Like 6-foot waves are kind of intense. And then when you're on like a 44-foot boat and you start seeing 10 to 12-foot rollers, that's kind of crazy. Like that's like washing machine level, and you're just holding on for dear life. So I can't begin to fathom like what 20, 30, 40-foot waves are like. And those 700-foot boats, like they can take a lot, right? They can take a big beating and whatnot, but it's still got to be harrowing to have gone through that.
Man, they beat the hell out of them boats. I'll tell you, the best thing about working in the marine industry is getting on those boats. So they're working all the time. You watch that documentary, it's pretty wild. It goes through that. Like these guys are on the water or on those ships 9 months out of the year.
Yeah.
They don't come into what we call the winter fleet, goes in for layup.
Sure.
Whether that's at Bay Shipbuilding over by me in Sturgeon Bay, or if they go down into the Ohio area where there's some other dry docks and wet docks and different things, to come in and get their maintenance done. But they run those things right till those Great Lakes start freezing over. So when the Coast Guard, when the icebreakers can't keep the lanes open anymore, then they come in. But you get on those ships and those guys, man, you want to talk about some stories. I mean, you and I can sit around and talk some shit. But I mean, you sit on those freighters and listen to those stories those guys talk about. The November storms, a lot of those vessels are over. I mean, when the Fitz was built in the 50s, it was the biggest ship on the Great Lakes. It was 729 feet. Now they're over 1,000 feet when they build them. Wow. And they'll be like, you'll go over these waves and you won't even see the front. Because they bend right over. So if you can imagine, I mean, it's just listening to those stories. Because I would do a lot of work in the winter times, go in and do alignment work and motor repair, on-site motor repair of the big systems on those freighters in the winter time. So a lot of those guys would still be on the ship sometimes,
That's incredible. Wow. So I guess
but to answer your question, the marine industry is no different than any major manufacturing industry. It's a business, right? They got a job to do.
Yeah.
They're paid on output.
Yeah.
You watch some of those documentaries, those captains, a lot of them, the ones that are true badasses that ride that out in the middle of November when the storms are really kicking in, excuse me, is because, they got quotas to meet, right? That
deliverables. Yeah.
Right. They need to bring that iron ore from upper Minnesota and the UP and all that down to where they're to the iron, or to the steel mills and whatnot. Yeah. So they just keep running it. So there's not a lot of time for maintenance. Like I said, it's usually probably reactionary.
Yeah.
And like I said, they get like 3 months out of it. And then it's all, I mean, no pun intended, but it's all hands on deck. Like contractors just flock to these shipyards and get working on these boats.
That's crazy. Man, I don't even know where to begin. I need to take a pause. You got to do something here because I'm trying to absorb it.
I'm happy to do that. I think kind of getting back to, you know, what your role is and what you work on.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do on the podcast, we try to take out the technology piece of, you know,
Good.
we're all parts of technology companies and products and services. And I think for our listeners who maybe are early in their journey and haven't really opened their eyes or doors to IoT devices or just condition monitoring, what would you say is the connecting piece? Like, why is it important to, you know, the technician? Like, what does device monitoring and all of that, how does that play into their daily life? Like, how does that help them? What's the benefit?
Well, as I'm sure people have said on this podcast before, and you've heard myself and my colleagues and people in our circles talk about, and it's an ongoing theme, is the basics. You know, if you can't do the basics well, don't invest tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in IoT or technology, because that's just going to, if you got a bad culture, a bad program, it's just going to accelerate you even faster to the bottom, right? Yeah. There really is no easy button. That's what I try to tell people. Yeah. I mean, the way we get our information is much quicker. That's changed, but you still have to know the basics. You got to do it well, what to do with that information, what to decipher that information. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to go down an AI rabbit hole or nothing like that and get fired up on any of that stuff. It's just, for me, I could really do without all the crazy marketing and stuff. It's really creating a problem because there's, in our world of condition monitoring, I think there's two camps nowadays. There's the camps of people who have been doing it for those 80 years I've been talking about. Yeah. And then there's people who are just getting into it. And to me, the ones that are just getting into it, I see are easy targets for a lot of these companies that are looking to make profits, right? Mm-hmm. Off devices. Yeah. Because they don't know what they don't know. Yep. Right. And they think that, especially with the push, you can spend 30 seconds on LinkedIn and find any number of self-glossed Industry 4.0 experts telling you, hey, hurry up and implement this, and this, or you're going to fail and things like that. And it's rinse and repeat. It's the same old boring, played out message. Now, is Industry 4.0 a thing? Yeah, heck yeah, it's a thing. But it's, so many people are confused. They think like, okay, corporate initiative is we need to be Industry 4.0. We need this digital transformation. Well, the first thing they do is just throw devices at things. Now we got devices on it. We're compliant. We're good, right? No, that's not how it works. Yeah. The old what's the old saying? Crawl, walk, run. Mm-hmm. Too many people just want to run. And I get that. I think, more so here in the U.S. than overseas, but I think globally, the point I'm making is time is not something that we all have a lot of, right? Yeah. In our day-to-day in these plants. So anytime, you can latch on to the idea of something's going to make you quicker, more efficient. The old saying for me is, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Gosh. People need to spend more time vetting, the technology and what they're looking to do before implementing.
Yeah, we've talked a lot today, in the last week really of, it's about starting with the end goal or end vision in mind, right? Like just like you said, you can't just throw sensors. Or one of my favorite quotes you have, Matt, is you can't censor your way to reliability, right? Right. So I think, there are a lot of people that do want to hit that easy button. But I want to dial it back a little bit and say, just from our perspective, right, and this is more me asking this question really out of true curiosity. Like, I don't know, so I want to get educated today. If we were, let's say, rolling out HxGN EAM to a customer, why or why not? Or what would you recommend as far as should we if it's a perfect world scenario, we got good culture, we got good leadership, but for whatever reason they don't have a solution, so we're doing this. Would you recommend that we implement like devices and start doing condition-based monitoring from the beginning, or do we need to wait 6 months, collect data, whether it's PM data, knowing what's failing, what's not failing? Where in the maturity process, so to speak, would you think is a good place to start?
Well, that's a great question, and that could probably be answered several different ways.
Sure.
But if you're saying they're already got a good culture,
yeah,
they're just not doing anything,
yeah,
they got the right people in place, then I would say, that's half the battle.
Yeah,
is the culture, number one. If they got the culture, they got the people, they got the processes, they got the buy-in, then start easing into it. But to just come in, I would hesitate to ever tell anybody to just go in and just like carpet sensor your whole plant.
Yeah.
Without really getting into the meat and potatoes of, okay, why are we censoring this? My colleague Brian and I and Amissa, we had a webinar we did a couple weeks ago, and the big part of that, the theme of that was, what's your mission, what's your vision, what are your goals, right?
Yeah.
Being realistic, understanding that you got to put in the work, right?
Yeah.
That those things need to be defined. Just coming in and saying, hey,
we're going to do this.
We're going to do this.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. So, I guess you could say history or some rhetoric tells us, and I'm always a guy to question why. Like, why is it? Question the why, not only of like why we're doing it, but why does it have to be this way? So, I think you look at maintenance maturity scales, and it's kind of a ladder climb, right? Like you have to start tracking your work orders to understand what's breaking and what's break-in or critical or whatever else, and you keep going to maturity 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. What I'm getting at here is, in my mind, I see this in a way of like, if we, let's say, have our top 10 critical assets defined, right? Just off of whatever criticality matrix you want to use. That's where we should begin is, these are not only important to us as a business because if they go down, it's big money, but we need to keep these things as healthy as possible and stay in front of the curve as much as possible. To your point, like we don't need to censor everything, right? Not everything needs to be done that way. But maybe we have a bad actor that is a critical asset, and so we need to try to figure out a way to get ahead of the curve. So how do we do that, right? I think it's where you introduce a device where we can see vibration analysis or temperature readings, or I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what the ultrasonic capabilities are. Maybe you can school me on that, but that's just in my mind of like, we're trying to tackle the problem, but we just don't have enough data. We don't have enough information. So how do we do that? Well, we can introduce, a condition-based strategy or a device that can help us gain clarity to something we can't see currently. But anyway, talk to me about ultrasonics. Like
Well, let me, before we get into that, I just want to add a little bit more helpful information. Anybody who's new to getting into it would be, make sure that you're bringing in a true subject matter expert in it. Mm-hmm. Somebody who is not there just to sell, sell you something or just to profit off that, Uptime Solutions, we are a vibration monitoring company. Those are our devices, utilizing vibration and ultrasonic. But like you had asked earlier in the podcast, what's my day look like when I'm asked to come in and walk a plant? I keep it very simple. I'm going to look at all the assets. I'm going to assume, like you said, they already have done that. Mm-hmm. And so now we're going to look at that list, and I'm going to try to match the right solution to that asset, right? I'm not just going to come in and say vibration analysis is great for all of this, because there might be areas where that's not the best solution. Mm-hmm. There's too much. Again, it comes back to the marketing. And the reason I get so passionate about it, all of you that know me, is that because I've been doing this so long, I've made a career out of it. I love the industry. It blows my mind when I see all this stuff around, like 6-in-1 sensors or this and that, and like trying to be all things to all people. That's not a thing. That doesn't work, right? So that would be my biggest piece of advice: is make sure, like, when you have somebody coming in looking to help you like that, that they're not just pushing what they brought to the table, that they're able to say, hey, I don't have the solution for you, but I have a network of absolute pros that I can say, hey, go and call so-and-so, go and call so-and-so. They have something that would match up perfect for what your mission and vision is, or what we need for this asset.
Love it.
The ultrasonics, getting into that, I don't know. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole, do you? But I love ultrasonics. I love ultrasonics because it's a great method for, one, monitoring low-speed assets.
Okay.
It's great for early failure detection.
Okay.
And it's great for monitoring lubrication, right?
Okay.
So for me, I'm all about, what I try to preach is early detection.
Yeah.
Going back to what I was saying about the marine industry or any other thing in any other manufacturing industries, is that we don't have the downtime that we used to, right? So again, talking like the old guy in the room, when I first got into it, like we would work 24 hours straight every 4th of July, every Christmas,
around
every
holidays.
New Year's, all that stuff, because that's when the big pulp and paper plants would shut down. How many is that? No,
That's just one.
He's not even counting. That's one.
The first pulp and paper.
So that's when all those big pulp and paper plants would shut down and be over the holidays. So then everything would turn around, right?
Yeah.
You'd have the big turnarounds. You'd have the big motors coming in, getting repaired and all that. Now you don't see that. Now it's based on so many weeks which gets farther and farther apart all the time. So it's always one thing that's never going to change is maintenance versus production, right?
Yeah.
And we all know who typically wins that battle. So to me, in my career, is always trying to get the earliest possible detection and watch that through that failure mode to allow my customers for optimal planning, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have a solution and people are like dancing and hooting and hollering that they found something 2 weeks or a week before it was going to fail, that's still reactive maintenance. If that's all you're getting out of it, save your money. Now, I'll probably get a lot of hate mail because of that, but really, you need to be finding things months out.
Yeah.
Now, is that always – I mean, things randomly fail, as we all know.
Yeah.
But vast majority of those failures you should be able to detect as early as possible to allow for maximum planning, maximum runtime, right, and to be able to be ready for it.
Yeah. You, Benjamin, you've been on a heater on, planned work is safe work.
Yep.
And we can't have reliability or even operational excellence without safe and reliable equipment. I'm
Yep.
sure you got a hot take on what Matt just said about early detection and planning phase on that.
Yeah, I think the piece that is kind of hand in hand with what you're talking about with optimal planning is it's not just about the sensor detecting early. There's also rolling it back to the foundational piece of like, how do we respond when we have that early detection? So that's a little bit of that balance between what you guys do with your maintenance organization and being able to respond to, okay, we know that when this alarm goes off, this is the chain of command of how we do it. This person is gonna, take that data and report it. We're gonna make sure we have work in place, but it's also, we need to look long-term and say, when this happens in the future, how can we get to it early to make sure that it's not going to consistently happen? And I mean, being able to track that data, you can track the trends and say, okay, we know that this is happening every however many shifts that this equipment is running. How do we start to get ahead of it? We get, engineering involved to be like, you guys know the asset well. How can we start to plan and make this a little bit more efficient so that it's not breaking down as often? So it's definitely that piece. There's that connection point between the two. It's first being able to know what the data is and know when something's going to happen. But it's also that other side of, as an organization, we are committed to responding to this in this way. There's a procedure in place. So that kind of touches back with the maintenance fundamentals, we talked with Brian about on the last episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wish I could have been here for that episode because, he's great at that stuff. And
He got on a heater, man.
And that's what we preach, right? I mean, you said a mouthful, and it's kind of gonna. I feel like I've been set up to go on this a rant.
Do it.
That means I did my job.
Let the hate flow through.
No, the hate's not flowing. Again, as I said, and I'm very passionate about this. This industry, and that's where the disconnect is. On the AI side of it is when you do that, you lose everything Ben just said, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because case in point, so I'll bring the pulp and paper in again. I remember many years ago, a lot of the machines in this industry, especially up by us, they're not new machines, right?
Yeah.
They've been running for a long time. And a lot of those machines were like one-offs, specifically made. So like to just go in there and say, hey, you have a fault on this bearing. Well, what good is that information unless you're working with what Brian said with the storeroom and stuff like that, or those people in those positions to say, well, do we even have one of these? When was the last time we even had one of these in stock? Oh, 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, we have to call SKF and have this retooled, and we're looking at an 18-month lead time? That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of things that go through my head when I hear what you're saying. Like that information gets lost because there's no conversation there anymore. The technology nowadays is great for getting you information faster, detecting alarms and stuff like that. But just reaching into its AI suitcase or whatever, data log, and saying, okay, now I'm just going to give these guys this canned answer of what everything might be. What good's that, right? I mean, without having somebody like a Brian or myself or you guys to come in and say, yeah, we need to look at this a little deeper,
Yeah.
Work with all these different departments. And that's a lot of what Brian and I talked about last week was just how important cross-functional teams are.
Well,
Not just being siloed in,
Yeah.
hey, we got this device and somebody,
yeah.
1,000 miles away told us that something's wrong. Well, okay, great. Now what? Right?
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but the conclusion I'm drawing here, which goes back to like this could be any component of technology, not just AI, but
Right.
there's an element of AI here in early detection that is only enabling more bad practices of reaction. Hey, AI detected an anomaly and it auto spits out a work order to go change bearing. Why? Well, this is because what the AI recommended. Okay, well, like you said, do we need to change a bearing? Do we have any on the shelf? Like what? Why is the bearing going bad? Like we need to ask more questions, and all it's doing is training us to just respond faster, right?
Right.
And that is troubling because if that's how we're training the next generation to come into work, then this goes back in more a philosophical point of we're not doing any favors for the next generation for critical thinking, autonomy, investigating, root cause analysis components.
Right.
Like we're training them to just be more like the robot, do what the robot says. The robot will tell you everything you need to do. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's analyzed 1 million work orders. It'll tell you everything you need to know about
Right.
it. And that's dumb. And going back to another component you said is like the old pulp and paper machinery. That's actually 3. That's 3, Brian. That's the 3rd time we referenced it. I forget where I was going with that. I got too distracted on it.
Well,
I'll
jump in and let you collect your thought. But
no, you're good.
I'm sure when Brian was on here, he talked a lot about defect elimination, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine. The mic still seems a little bit hot from the fire that he was probably spitting on it, but he's not wrong. I mean, really, and that's things that a lot of these condition monitoring, even when in my early days doing it, I never thought of that stuff.
Sure.
I didn't do it till I started getting more on the reliability side and networking with reliability people and putting myself through the education with that piece and getting more involved in it with my plants that I was servicing. There's so much more information there that can be used, right? I mean, I think the vast majority of condition monitoring programs are operating in a silo. Kind of like we hear, I think our friend George Williams or I don't know who it was over there at Reliability X talks about like championing the firefighter, that guy who's going to come in on the weekend or work the overtime and get that thing swapped out. Well, that's great, but why are we not looking at some of this more? Like, okay, hey, Matt's detected this. Okay, let's get Brian and his group involved and let's do an analysis on this. Let's figure this out. Is this just random wear? Yeah. Or is this based on this, and this, and how can we communicate and so we're not running into this again, right? I mean, that is, in my opinion, the true core of condition monitoring, not just me coming in and telling you, hey, something's wrong, go fix it. Because without any other kind of context, right, the two camps, you might have a camp of who might want that AI component. And again, I'm not making it about that, but that's just the world we live in right now. The AI component might say, hey, I've detected an anomaly, go there, check it out, hey, replace it. A lot of people are just going to your point, a lot of that's really dumbing down what we've worked so many decades to perfect. Yeah. Right? So I always make the analogy, pulp and paper again. If I go into a large pulp tissue mill and they're running a 90-ton Yankee, and I just go in there and say, hey, I have an increase in overall amplitude or whatever, replace that bearing, they're probably going to throw me out faster than I walked in. It's going to be like, well, we'd hate to tell you this, Matt, but that bearing's about $40,000 a piece. Yeah. And we need more information than that. Like, what is going on? Or some of these assets where you go in, the gearbox is the size of this room we're recording in right now, and they have to remove the ceiling and pull it out with a crane. I mean, there's a lot that planning that goes in that. Yeah. And I think a lot of these companies that aren't true condition monitoring companies, they don't have a grasp of that. Like how important like really detailed analysis, detailed reporting is, right? Yeah. for those actual items, not just say, hey, we're really glad we found this for you. Okay, well, how much longer is it going to run? Will we make it to this? Will we have all the stuff ready to go, right? I know that was a little bit of a rant, but that's really what it's about. And I think that's getting lost now in the easy button mentality. I call it the diet pill mentality in this industry. Everybody just wants a quick fix. Nobody wants to put in the work. They want to just think that this device or this pill is just going to make everything sexy and run great, right? Well, that's not the case.
It's not. I think interesting take from previous recording we did was with our buddy Trent. It sounds like from Trent's perspective, you know, a little more boots on the ground. And I've heard this through a handful of other folks. I mean, I feel like some of the younger folks coming into work or some of our age generation, they want to be better. Like there's this, you know, want of ownership, like it wants to be there. And then, you know, this disconnect is coming back to leadership looking for the easy button, right? We've talked a lot about leadership today, which I think has been fantastic. I will hammer that one home as much as we can. And I admitted when we were talking with Trent, like as a business leader, when I get frustrated about a problem, I naturally just want to be like, I got to make this problem go away as fast as I can and as easy as I can. And I'll get lost in a tangent of like trying to find a solution. Then I quickly realize I just got to do the work. I just got to sit down and do it. And, you know, it's the quicker we can get to that self-discovery phase, I think the better we're going to be able to enable all of the folks that we lead to do better. And so what I'm saying by that is, you know, it goes back to leadership, setting the tone, setting the pace. How are we going to do this? Leadership doesn't have to know all the answers, but they need to be able to facilitate how we're going to do things, get barriers out of the way, and let the people you hire do what they were intended and hired to do and what they do best and find victory at the end of the day. So anyway, I'm going to come off that tangent. And I'm gonna kick it back over to you, Ben. I feel like I've been talking.
I do like not to interrupt you, but I do like that tangent because really, you know, the things that really capsize these programs, number one to me is poor leadership or lack thereof, right? Either leadership at the top or no personal ownership in the program, no having that champion, that guy to lead that program, right? And like you were saying about these younger folks coming in, you know, a lot of people be like, they don't want to learn this and that. But, you know, I can see where I could have fell into that camp of believing that. But I'm really blessed that I get to go out and talk to, and I enjoy it, talking to some of the trade schools in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin technical system, and our high schools and stuff. My wife works in education, so I get invited in to come and talk to these folks. And these young men and women that want to come in, they want to be there. They want to learn this stuff. Yeah. So to your point, yes, they do want to learn, but they need folks like us who have been in this space for a while to take the initiative to give them the practical experience.
Exactly.
And share it with them, you know, and not just let them fall in this tech trap, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, there's some really cool stuff out there, but, you know, make a parallel to it. So when I graduated high school way back in 1996, and I went
Were you born in 1996?
Probably not. Huh?
Just short.
Why is he even sitting here? I think these shoes are. Well, no, these shoes aren't older than him, but the other ones in my suitcase might be. But just kidding, Ben. My point is, when I first jumped into the skilled trades and went into automotive technology. It was taught to me back then very quickly. This is just when fuel injection started really coming out, right? Back in the early 90s, mid-90s. The gentleman I worked for said, hey, you want to be good at this stuff, you need to learn the legacy stuff. Yeah. So he gave me all these old carburetors, 2-barrel carburetors, single-barrel carburetors, 4-barrel, everything from just your run-of-the-mill to early injection systems and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I look at it too now. It's like every now and then I'll post something out on LinkedIn for all the old heads and be like, hey, do you remember how to balance using vector sheets? Or do you know, like people really need to know where all this came from, not just jump in the tech side. Because when the tech fails or something's not making sense, you go back to the roots, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things we can't lose sight of that, like you were saying. Yeah, you know?
You're right. And I'll compound off that a little bit. You know, you were probably taught, like when you got into the industry, that was, just go do it, Matt. Yeah, I'm just making an assumption. And so as we've had technology grow and get better and advance over, this period of time, the way people learn is changing every day, right? So like me going through high school was the peak era of moving from the old school, what am I trying to say? The marker projectors, right? Where you just wrote over the projector. I remember sitting in Miss Thompson's Algebra 1 class, and she's trying to do formulas, and I was sitting in the back just slack-jawed because I was out of it. So, and then 2 years later, we started getting smart boards, and now we got computers and internet on the screen, and we're doing kind of crazy stuff. And so that changes how you learn, and so you got to be able to, as a leader, adapt to that, right? So, to case in point, Brian and I talk about this too, or we have. YouTube is an incredible learning platform. I'm sure there's also a lot of bullshit on YouTube as well, but but there's so many avenues to learn, and you got to be. I think you just got to be adaptable. Read the room, understand your people, right? How can they learn? How can they be better? Let's use a little bit of the technology to learn better. But to your point, like we need to learn how to do some of the old school stuff. That way, when everything else fails, we can still grab a pen and a sheet of paper. Do some shit that we need to get done and call it a day, right?
Listen, I'm telling you, like without that, I'm sure you guys were scorch earthing it on fundamentals. I mean, when you and Brian were talking, really, it comes down to that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, again, you're bringing me down memory lane. I remember getting involved in laser alignment, and some of the old timers, the old millwrights, looking at me like, "What is that bullshit?" And and they're out there with straight edges and dial indicators and doing great work with it, But they looked at that like, I don't want to learn that stuff, And that's it's funny how I look back on my career and how that just compounds, with different things. And it's like, I'm glad I learned that. I'm glad I was open to learning that, and I was glad that I had some old timers take the time to teach me how to do that stuff with dials or vector paper and different things and understanding, the fundamentals of vibration analysis and thermography and all that stuff, because otherwise, like I said, I've been watching in my career as analyzers have progressed that technology, it's really dumbing down. Mm-hmm. It's like now it's created a society of button pushers. Like I know if this, push this, but if all of a sudden none of that's making sense and I got to think on my own, it's like, well, now what? Yeah. Right? Because I have no fundamental understanding of that asset, how a gearbox works, right? How it was designed, that kind of thing. I'm ranting.
No, it's good.
But that stuff is very important. But I fear that some of that's getting lost.
I think so too. I've got a great analogy for that. Have either of you seen the movie Hidden Figures? Mm-mm. Okay, so it's a great movie. It's about a NASA days, and so there was a division of NASA where people were hand calculating trajectories for rocket ships. And more so, this is highlighting a group of young black women that worked for NASA during the peak of Jim Crow and segregation and everything else. And there was this one young lady, I can't remember her name right now, but I'm sure if you Google the movie, you'll find it. She was the best. She was the best. And so they brought her into the main room for the Apollo, I think, 11 mission, and a lot of controversy because of the race piece and the culture and this, that, and the other. But the bottom line was she could do the math by hand. And so the movie touches on they brought in the first IBM computer. It took up damn near this whole building that we're in today, right? And nobody could figure out how to get the IBM computer to work. Nobody could figure it out. So then they get the IBM computer figured out, and they're like, oh, well, we don't need Catherine anymore because the computer can do this in 20 minutes. And so the moral of and this isn't spoiling much, but like towards the end of the movie, they're trying to get this critical calculation done. Where's the Apollo module going to land? And they need it to land in Jamaica. So where's the reentry point? And the computer just keeps flubbing up. So they call old Catherine up and say, hey, grab a sheet of paper and a calculator, come do the math for us. And so they bring her in and they do it. And so it's a cool story on how like the tried and true ways sometimes need to be done. And I'm curious, if we were able to get a hold of somebody at SpaceX or some other wicked place of like, I'm sure 99.8% of their day is all computer calculation ran, right? But I'm sure it doesn't run perfectly all the time. So what do they do? It's a good question to ask. Maybe we should call somebody.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Well, I think people's attention spans are getting lower and lower and lower because I used to always joke, like not even joke, it's probably facts. Like when you look at, I laugh because all this marketing, and I circle back to that. Mm-hmm. They talk about prescriptive maintenance as this new idea or anomaly detection as this new idea. I I mean, we've had the legacy from the legacy condition monitoring companies have been doing stuff in their software. AI is the same, junk in, junk out.
Yeah.
You know, if you took the time and learned and actually read the manuals that came with this stuff, right? Probably much like your EAM systems and stuff, and understood the fundamentals of it, you probably turn into a real rock star champion of that, right? Like most condition monitoring software, vibration monitoring software, analysts out there they're lucky if they're using 30% of the capabilities. And I'm sure you can talk on that. It's probably the same in your world.
Yeah.
Again, it's like people know what they're comfortable with, and it's like it's working.
Yeah, and we leave it at that.
And they leave it at that, right?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Who was I talking to? I can't remember, but they were asking me, why is there a barrier for people using EAM and getting into the more exotic elements of the product, right? Whether that's meter readings or calibrations or reliability-centered maintenance. There's a little module in there in EAM for that. It's not that great. And there's a couple other, cool things that EAM can do. And they're asking, why aren't our customers doing this? And I was like, well, to be honest with you, I think it's the way we sold it to them back in the day. Like we just were selling it to them that this is your work order fix. And that's all they cared about. Sure. And so, EAM, HxGN EAM's been around since 2004-ish?
Sounds about right.
When N4 bought data stream. Yeah, well, it was D7i back in the day, but it's been around for a long time, right? And I mean, it's tried and true. It does work and all this, that, and the other. But, here we are coming up on 30 years later or 20 years later, still trying to educate people like what does an asset management system do?
Sure.
It goes beyond just work order. And this is where I go back, and Ben, I know, believes with this too. Like if somebody calls me up and says, hey, I want to buy HxGN EAM and I got $1 billion PO and all I want to do is manage my work orders with it. We're not the fit for you, man.
Right.
Go call somebody else, right? If you want to get better and you want to get a better understanding of your asset lifecycle cost capture from cradle to grave, this is probably the solution for you. But it's going to require work. It's going to require a lot of work, planning, strategy. It's not going to cost you $1 billion to get there. You've probably got some smart people under your, staff and everything else coupled with us. We can help get you there. So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated, and we just need to get doing it. But for whatever reason, I feel like we just can't seem to get some of our customer base to get beyond work order management and doing PM schedules just to say we do PM schedules. Like, just getting beyond that.
We've always done it, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't it come back to that's the way we've always done it? And I just want to say, like people listening, take note. That is a sign of a good partnership is when somebody tells you no.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've had those conversations, especially recently in the last 5 years as more and more IoT stuff comes out where walk a plant and they're like, all right, give us your quote, whatever. Hey, we want you to do this with this sensor or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, not going to do it. Well, why not? The last 5 people that walked through here said, yeah, we can monitor that. I'm like, it's not the solution. It's not possible, or being just straight up honest, like I don't want your headaches because for what you're looking to do or what you believe you've been told is going to work, it's going to be a headache. So I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But here's the solution that you need, kind of like what you were saying of, we got something else for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's really what a lot of these customers need. They need a partner that will tell them, no, this isn't the right way, or no, there's a better way, right?
Yeah. That's at the core of every good partnership. Like
it
if
is.
I told my wife, hey, I saved up $20,000 to go to Vegas with some of the not so nice people that I'm associated with. Not that there are any, honey.
So you're going to Vegas.
I promise.
What you're saying.
That's what I'm talking. Right
it's
after
definitely not that guy. But it's sometimes no is to your benefit, and it's that next piece of like, well, why is this person who's trying to earn my business telling me no? There's got to be more to this, and that's where you kind of come in with that advice of before that we turn everything to technology, we need to make sure that what you're currently doing, the technology is going to serve that mission, that purpose. And so that's kind of we dive in so heavy on the people and the process piece because that's the first step.
It is.
You make sure that everything you do, all of this data that is being collected nowadays and whatever it may be, you want to make sure that it serves you to what you're doing and it's not just taking over everything and that you're just handcuffed by, the data is going to tell me everything that I need to know. Well, if you're not doing things the right way from the jump, the fundamentals, you're kind of just shoving shit into it and it's going to kick shit out on the back end. So it's really all about, how do we make it serve us the right way? how do we set it up so that it's in alignment with what our company wants to do. And so I think that's like such a cool topic when we get into what you do is, it's not just about strapping on, fastening, securing a sensor to a piece of equipment. It's like, why are we doing it? Well, we know that this equipment is important to what we do, and we want to be able to take that and get better from it.
You know what's crazy? And, some of this we could probably save for another podcast, but the thing, because I'm trying to stay PC on this podcast, but
well, just unleash, man, because we can clip out a little 30 seconds.
No. When it comes to like you're saying devices, right?
Yeah.
I just scratch my head. I'm like, doesn't anybody like question anything anymore? Do they just want the thing to meet a corporate initiative, no matter what that's going to look like and cost?
Yeah.
The number one question I get is, how many readings can you take with that device? I'm like, why are you asking me that? Well, because so-and-so came in here and said they can take readings at least 8 billion times a day. I said, oh, yeah, what are you doing with those 8 billion readings? Well, I don't know, but nothing's going to fail. I'm like, oh, really? Okay.
They promise you that?
Okay. What are they using to, this asset? Oh, well, that technology is not going to detect what you want, what you need to detect on this. It's just days I just want to get up and go bang my head against a wall. It's, you know what I mean?
I do.
It's like,
I do know what you mean.
And that comes back to what I always say. And Brian should be counting that as much as I say pulp and paper, but it's more data doesn't equal more reliable. And I'm sure Brian gave his thoughts on that as well, about, reliability being inherent to the design and things like that. But people think like more sensors, more data, more reliable. It's not the case. You can get more information, but what are you doing with that data? That's what I'm going to ask them. Like, why do you want that data? Are you doing anything with that data? Do you have anybody that can interpret that data? And that goes back to what we were talking about, in the middle of the conversation today of, okay, who's sitting at the table?
Yeah.
Who's looking at this stuff? Who's going to improve processes through this information? Having a sea of data is just having a bunch of numbers. You're just sitting on a data. You're just getting crushed under the weight of it if you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. It's like saying, I need to go smell 100 piles of turds to know that shit stinks.
Right.
Shit stinks. Shit breaks. We know it breaks. So how do we get beyond that? And like you said, we don't need 1,000 sensors to tell us things that we already either know or that's not going to bring any value to us.
Right? I put together a list that was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it was one where I went off on a rant after reading some self-glossed fool on LinkedIn telling people how to do things. And I'm like, all right, everybody, here's Knuth's free list of this is what you need to ask them. Or if you see them leading with this, run. If they do this, run. If they're just leading with the tech side of it and all these promises and crazy pricing and stuff, you're not their customer. They're not here for you.
Yeah.
It's like they're not even hearing what your problems are.
Yeah.
They're not here for a solution.
No doubt.
I wish I had that. I wish I had that with me and to share on here, but it's
I'm sure we could find a place to throw it in the post. We'll figure it out.
It's so much is being lost in this.
There is. I was going to flip the script again. We did this with Trent earlier. We didn't do it with Brian because, man, we were in the thick of it, and then we realized we were like deep past the recording time. We were like, oh, God. So I want to flip the script with you, Matt, and ask us 2 or 3 questions. Anything. I don't care what it's about. Put us on the spot.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I wish you would ask me this before I got on my flight today. I would have given it some thought.
I don't want you to give it any thought.
Well, you'll get no thought.
That's what I want.
What's the closest restaurant to here? Because I'm actually getting pretty hungry, and I can hear Brian's stomach in the background.
There are a lot of restaurants, but I'm gonna challenge you. My favorite lunch spot in Greenville is Society Sandwich Pub in downtown Greenville. I would go there. It is baller. But if you wanted something closer, you live around this neck of the woods. There's a lot on Pelham Road. There's a whole bunch.
If you go right out of here, a bunch of places down Pelham, kind of past Top Golf, but there are a couple places just over here to the left. Bubba Annie's.
Yeah, that place is good.
Southern cooking, wings, whatever you would want. It's like right around the corner. Free plug there for Bubba Annie's. And then trying to think if there are any others like right by, but we'll figure out a good spot for you.
Yeah.
Does that count? That really wasn't a question, but
Sure, whatever.
let me think here.
Dude, I'm telling
Anything.
you, muscle it to society. It's like 15 minutes away, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get Philly cheesesteak egg rolls, and the dipping sauce is Philly cheesesteak sauce.
So I got some legit questions.
Okay.
What is what is your guys' biggest headaches here in 2025 with EAM implementation? Are your customers coming into you? I mean, with pie in the sky, or is it realistic, unrealistic expectations, different things? What are you guys getting beat up with? What's eating your lunch as far as trying to educate customers?
Yeah, I think for me, and I'll let you touch on this, but the thing that pisses me off the most, and it's a fair question at the end of the day, just because of marketing and what all's going out there. But I remember sitting on we were trying to close this deal for hey, grow lettuce. There's no better way to put it. They just grow a shit ton of lettuce and spinach and shit like that. And they were on MP2, which we all know is a legacy system. It's the predecessor to EAM. And we're talking about, this is it. Here's the deployment time. Here's the cost. And they're like, it's going to be expensive. And it's like, yeah, but like this is doing it the right way. Like this is doing it the right way. This is going to be long-term success. And then at the end of the call, the maintenance director said, well, what's stopping me from hanging up and creating my free Maintain X account at the end of this call? And I was like, nothing. Nothing's stopping you. But what I told him, we didn't win the deal, but what I told him was, you can spend your money or do the free version of Maintain X, but like your manufacturing process is a little complicated, and you also have multiple facilities, and what you're trying to do, you're going to start strong, but I guarantee you in 3 years you're going to call me back and say, this can't do what I need it to do. And they were like, okay, but I can fix the problem now. I was like, sure, you can fix the problem now. And so I think goes back to a common thing is it's just there's some folks out there that are really just looking for the easy button. Mm-hmm. And like as much as I can politely try to say to them, you're just pissing away money, right? Even if it's only a couple thousand a year, but like you're still going to have the same problem in 3 years. You just put a Band-Aid on the solution versus fixing or finding out where you're bleeding and how we're going to stop the bleeding entirely. So like that's my struggle is, and it's not that these like modern CMMSs are bad. I think a lot of them are really great, to be honest with you, but like you need to be able to take a look at yourself and say, what do I need to get the job done? I think there's a time and a place for all of these applications. Maximo included for that matter, being, they're my like number one competitor. But you got to determine for yourself, what do I need to do to get the job done at the end of the day? And I think the other like frustrating piece is the ones that do it really well, they don't stay at the company long. They either promote it or they take a job somewhere else and they're a change agent somewhere else. So like we sometimes that's the second thing that pisses me off is like we'll get really great steam and then our champion leaves and it's like nobody cares. And it's like, God, I mean, how do we help like keeping these folks to care and keep progress happening?
Your champion in the plant.
Yeah, like our champion in the plant will just say, he'll either get promoted or he'll take a job somewhere else and, we'll still get to work with them. Like case in point, this deal we talked about earlier before the podcast, right? Like where he called us out of the blue because we did an implementation with him 4 years ago and he loved working with us. And so he took a new job and he's bringing us with us, which is great. But I'm like low key, I'm kind of thinking like, how long is he going to be here? I'm trying to think ahead of like, what do we do to set up the company for success? And I'm sure he would help us do that. I don't think he would be opposed to that conversation, but.
I'm glad I asked that question and you went there because that really brings up a great point. I know we're probably short on time, but that'd probably be a good topic for another podcast is getting us all together and chatting about that. But the fact that the average tenure is like 2 to 4 years, probably closer down to 2 to 3 year.
Yeah.
And you know how it is in most of these plants. I mean, you're not implementing anything fast at all. Mm-mm. And by the time you do and you build that relationship and stuff, I used to see it all the time. Yeah. And then they're gone. And it's just a recycle of people. I mean, I remember watching all the time still, like the plant manager goes here, and then it's like next person up. I call it the next man up mentality. It's one of the biggest killers in condition monitoring programs. We talked about it last week. It's like, okay, who wants to put in for this job? Do you know anything about assets? You know anything about – no. It's an easy job, and I'm retiring here. Well, great. Come on in, man. I got a spot for you. Yeah, that's going to work well. I'm like, this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
And I think that's truly a dilemma.
Yeah, I agree.
To set up any kind of successful programs
Yeah.
when people are bailing out.
Yeah.
Because the next person wants to come in and they want to make their mark.
Yeah.
Right?
Do it their way.
They want to do it their way.
Yeah.
And you see it too with devices. It's like they get in there, nobody, is it working? Yes. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Is it working? No. Well, why can't you just, you need to lick your wounds and say, well, we need to try something else. This didn't work. It may have been expensive, but we need to move on. We need to find the right solution.
That's right.
And yet you go in, I can't tell you how many times I've just gone in to plants, especially over the last 15 years with more and more device stuff, of just walking into a room like this, a maintenance manager's room, look in a closet or under a desk, and it's just boxes full of sensors. Well, what are you doing with that shit? Well, it didn't work. So we just took it off, or we were sick of all the false alarms and this, that, and the other thing. Well, why don't you change? It's too expensive. We're already committed.
Yeah.
I'm going off a rant.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, would you answer the question?
Time is definitely the enemy, I think, for folks that want that easy button. Naturally, when you want an easy button, that also means quick turnaround, quick implementation. And that's contrary to how we want to do business, because if we want to do it right from the jump, that means we're going to take the time to do discovery, to get to know who our customer is going to be, what's important to them, what are their overall values, is maintenance tied in with that? And so that naturally will mean a longer sales cycle. And the other piece with EAM is it's not just about maintenance as much as we want to empower and promote maintenance. EAM touches multiple departments around an organization, to finance, touches in with operations, reliability. We get in even HR, like you want to keep people with your business. How does an EAM system or a CMMS or any kind of technology tie out to those? That's kind of the story you need to tell. So for us, it takes time. We want to make sure we understand who they are first, what they're trying to do, the why, and then it's connecting the dots between what that why is and what we will hope to provide and advise on. And so a lot of times if people want to move quick, they'll be like, you're telling me that this sales cycle is going to take 8 months? I need something quick. I've got pressure from above that I need to get a solution in. And so it might be easier to go with another solution. And, we understand that. We don't want to be a barrier to them trying to get better, because no matter what solution or service or consulting that you pick, you're at least showing an effort to get better. It's more for us. We really want to root it in that why, that mission. And sometimes that takes time, and we want to create a partnership that lasts. We're not just looking at an implementation over the next 6 months. We're looking at 10 years down the road, when we can look back and see all of our historical asset data, all the work that's been done, how costs have shaped up to those pieces of equipment. So for us, it's just, we want to do the due diligence for them to make a better project in the long run and make them successful. Our success really doesn't matter. It's theirs. So to us, we want to take the time to do it right. So sometimes we butt heads, and that's just kind of the nature of it. Is some companies want to move really quick, and as quickly as we can mobilize and move, we want to take the time to do it right.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I think there's, at least I'm trying to find ways where maybe we can meet in the middle on some of that, right? Like there's no reason we can't start tracking at least basic work order data, right? While we're trying to get, like, whether it's the business process isolated or change the culture or get the big picture planned out, something that could take 3 to 6 months, right? Like there's things we can do now. How do we do that? And how do we do it well? And how do we do it cost effective? So, I think, again, like we all talk about, it's a journey, right? Like there is no end point, to be honest. It's a constantly changing finish line. But I think I'm also kind of tired of just accepting the rhetoric of that you have either, a fast implementation work order management system that's, insert XYZ companies that are doing it, or you have these EAMs that take long, drawn-out processes. Like, I don't accept that bullshit. Like, I think we can get you into a sustainable platform early and slow to make good decisions so we can grow with it very well.
So what you're telling me is fast, cheap, and easy still does not exist.
Not for me, man. Not for me.
So one last question.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this.
Oh, I bet you are.
I'm taking over now. I'm going to be behind that guy's desk before long. He's even listening.
Justin
I don't even think he's paying attention.
That dude will.
Are we even recording over there? Is this even?
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? I don't know. This guy's making me nervous. So
good.
Happy Veterans Day, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah.
So my last question is this. So how do you guys, what is your take on the changing landscape? Now, this isn't a, hey, I'm an old guy, stay off my grass type of bullshit comment, right?
Okay.
It's in my industry, like I said, earlier in the conversation started off, like here were the legacy companies, like your competition, like you said, are the ones that you mentioned. I don't want to mention your competition here.
That's okay. We can talk about it. I don't give a shit.
But so that's what people known. But now all of a sudden you got it's the Wild West again in I think both our worlds. And you have all these venture capital backed startups coming in who are just pouring hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing.
Yeah.
And vaporware and different things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not all vaporware, but I mean, there is plenty of it out there.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? I like asking this question because it's like in my world, you don't see much advertising from the legacy companies.
No.
It's kind of like I don't know if that's because they got their piece of the pie already, or they're resting on like, hey, people have been in bed with us forever. They're not going to move.
Yeah.
It's more of a. I like the question because it's just interesting to me to get people's takes on it. Like, what does that look like?
Alex, if I may, I will.
I was getting ready to ask, did you want to start this one? Because I got a lot of opinions on
this. This is it, something that we've had to look at internally and that's how you have to approach it is it's so easy to get caught up in the competitive landscape and look over the fence and see, damn, their grass is way greener than mine. What are they doing? Well, they might just be spray painting it green just to make you feel bad. But for us, we can't worry about all this outside noise. Like we have to look at ourselves. How do we as a company get better ourselves? If we improve on what we do and really lean into what the right message is, which it is ultimately all about the customers and their people, how do we empower them to be better? How do we make maintenance matter at that foundational level? For us, if we just lean into that, we don't need to spend a whole bunch of money on marketing because the people that get it and understand the vision will resonate with us. And, we're doing a lot just to get the message out. Like that's why we want to do a podcast is not just to give us business. Like ultimately that's like a side achievement that we can get. But for us, it's can we create a community that really cares about maintenance and how to improve and make it better? And from there, we just want to be in the conversation. That's all we want to do is have a conversation with people and hear out what their problems are. If we can help, great. If we can't, we want to connect you and network you to the person that can help. Ultimately, we want any kind of industry, U.S. manufacturing, any other of the industries we serve, we want them to continue to improve and be better and feel confident doing it. And so for us, going against like kind of the loud noise, we want to take that back and say, this is what we're doing here. And we're finding a lot of success here. We hope that we can have a conversation with you and see what we can do better. And so that would be my perspective on it is, you can't really affect what's happening outside, like what competitors are doing, what the market is saying, like that's just going to be loud noise. And you kind of just have to stay steady and keep going forward and say, as a business for us, we are going to be passionate about maintenance and asset management. And, we're not always going to have all the answers, not going to be the expert, but we're going to at least try to advise the best we can to help grow the community.
That's a great answer. I think a lot of people out there, you see them throwing this money around like they hate it. and I'm old school, man. The thing I think that made me, or I know that made me very successful in my career was the old school word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was saying, the one upside of people constantly moving around is that I learned at a very young age, like you do not bullshit the boots on the ground. And I think that's why like a lot of our competitors, their business model is we have to get in at corporate because when they first tried 15 years ago to bullshit on the plant floor, they were laughed out very quickly, right? But I made a career out of like being very honest. Like if I was asked a question, again, going back to the pulp and paper industry, I learned very quick in there like I would be set up for failure. These old timers in there, like going back to the smoke and mirrors, you'd be like, hey, Knuth, like that bearing's bad. I need you to write that up or whatever. Making you try to second guess yourself to see if you would. Those type of things, plant bad bearings or say, something was changed out, but they didn't, to test you type of thing, But those people move around, and once you prove that, or they learn that you weren't a bullshitter and that you were there to help them, that spoke volumes.
Yeah.
And as people moved around, or we're in a big country with a lot of manufacturing, but it is a small pond.
It is.
And to me, the biggest downside of all the noise that you talk about is it tends to give the rest of the industry that you might operate in a black eye. Because a lot of people won't try a certain technology a second time if they got burnt the first time, right? And coming back to it like, this is all bullshit, you know?
Ties back into the trust. You know, we talked about it on a previous episode is, you know, if you as a company, you've spent this time to build up all that trust, you can lose it in an instant. And I think just being in that consulting industry, there are other competitors who customers have dealt with that has left a bad taste in their mouth. And so they say, you know, all consulting and firms that are claiming to help us, they're all out to get us and they don't really care about us. And so you are kind of fighting that battle is, you know, we can't affect what was done to somebody in the past, but we sure as hell are going to give it our all to really push them forward as a business and help however we can. And if their opinion changes, great. But you know, our goal is just to help, and if we can, that's the best thing we can do.
That's refreshing because I don't think we hear a lot of that anymore.
No, I don't think we do. Yeah.
We don't. It's.
Well, you obviously you know Ben, and you met Rory too, right? I think some of my most favorite pieces about having Ben and Rory on the team and working with them is like for me. I see the competitive landscape very differently. And I mean, rightfully so, right? Like I'm trying to grow the business and do, let's say, the right things. But it's very easy for me to get distracted when I see a competitor do something and I'll say something in our little chat and Ben and Rory immediately are like, stay focused on us. This is the only variable we can control.
Right.
And I'm like, I hate it and I love it at the same time.
I know. It's hard sometimes to keep your mouth shut.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
You know, you talk about the consulting role. It's like I think I spend more time now having to re-educate people.
Yeah.
To go back to what you guys were probably talking about yesterday with Brian about the basics, man.
Yeah.
Like let's focus here.
Yeah.
You know.
So I will say this is my prediction of what I think is going to happen in the current market space. So it's because I've researched a lot of this over the last 6 months. Much like the condition monitoring, I think it's like a $300 to $400 billion a year industry expected to grow 15 to 20% over the next 5 to 6 years. So it's not going away. There's a lot of money to be made. You're introducing a lot of technology formats. Of course, AI is the hottest piece here. But if you look at the, let's say, 350 CMMS/EAM software providers that are out there, the ones that are making the most traction and trying to gain market share, which, by the way, like the Upkeeps, the Tractions, the Limbles, the MaintainXs of the world, they still only have less than 5% of the total market share in the United States for CMMS and EAM. You know who has the most? Maximo, 64% right now. SAP, I think, has somewhere between 20 and 30%, and then HxGN EAM is leading up the rear here. So there's these guys are making a lot of noise, and they're making traction and they're doing some cool things, but like they're still, I hate to use the word insignificant, but they're still small players in this very big pond. So like I try to remind myself that, and then the other component to this is I don't talk to these business owners, so I don't know them. I can only make an assumption that they're probably taking VC money or PE money, like they have investors. Jeremy Drury said it at Reliable Plant. You know, if you're at if you're buying software or technology from a company that's in Series A, B, C, D through Z of funding, you're not their customer.
Right.
Their investors and shareholders are their customers. So the thing to know about that is if somebody is investing money in this company, there's an exit strategy. What is that exit strategy? They're not going to tell you. But at the end of the day, and we've seen this happen a lot, consolidation is going to come.
Oh, yeah. I think it's already started.
Yeah. You're going to see companies that are underperforming, and then they're going to get swallowed, and then this person's going to get swallowed, and then you're going to have IBM come and step in and be like all right, come to the adult table now. We'll give you $500 million if you sell us our bullshit, and all they want's their customer base.
Right.
So consolidation is going to happen, and so it goes back to the other point of like why we want to have the sustainability and longevity of like we want to try to help people set up for long-term success. Now, we can't promise anything on what's going to happen with HxGN EAM. We already know Octave is going to be the spinoff for the ALI division in January, and everything's going to get a new name, and there's a lot of change coming. But I think we can rest in knowing that like the core product's not going to change all that much. Improvements, yeah, sure, it'll be great. So like it's been here for 20 plus years. It's probably not going away anytime soon. And we know it's highly flexible, customizable, getting better every single day. So like we rest in knowing that we're somewhat secure in the product that we have. But I look at these other competitors and like when I see one, for example, I hope I get a cease and desist out of this. But like when I see Traction post on LinkedIn, give us your quote and we'll beat it. They just want a logo on the belt. That's all they want.
Right.
They're trying to meet Q4 numbers, put a brand on the website, and I'm sure Igor or the other folks will argue with me that no, that's not what we're trying to do. Well, why are you doing this then? Like, why are you undercutting your pricing to try to acquire and shore up your Q4 earnings call? And it's because your investors are ringing the dinner bell, and they either want to see improvement, get paid, or that you're going to own up to the promise that you did on them. And so like I look at those things and that I just get completely solidified in the decision that like we're doing the right thing by focusing on ourselves. Like screw these guys. It's a race to the bottom. They'll figure it out and we'll be fine long term.
Man, I'm telling you, it's comical. Yeah. And I'm not here to rip on competition by any means, but it is kind of comical because it's like you look at trade shows now versus say 20 years ago or whatever. People are in costumes. There's like gimmicks.
Yeah.
Like how do you take it? It's like you're really making our industry look foolish.
Yeah.
So, I see people walk through those halls and even myself, it's like first thing they do is they look at your thing. What color is your lanyard? Are you a buyer? Mm-hmm. Are you an exhibitor? And more, there's more exhibitors than there are attendees anymore at half these things. That's why I'm excited to be here for this.
Yeah.
Plug and stop the madness because I feel like being here, the people that are coming and the groups that we get to talk to, they want to learn. Right?
Yeah.
You walk through some of these big, some of these conferences, and people have got so desensed to like they feel like they're. I say it's like walking through a mall and trying to take the widest path around the cell phone kiosk.
Yeah.
Or the people selling the slippers or whatever. And they're all trying to reach out and sell you something. They're jumping out at you. Yeah. I mean, like that's what this has become.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
And it's
madness.
It is madness. It is seriously madness and maddening. It's like, why can't we just like, this is who we are. We're not all things to all people. Come on over. We'll talk to you. If we got a solution for you, great. If not, hey, I know who to talk to up the road.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to close her home, and I'm going to close it simple and bring a quote my 9th grade English teacher once told me. The race is not won by the swiftest, but the one that endures to the end. So until next time, everybody, we'll see you then.